All right, everybody, we got S1apSh0es on the podcast tonight. Thanks for being with us, Slap.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on, even though I'm a little bit late. Got distracted. I'm trying to move here. So thanks for bearing with me. I know we've rescheduled like twice already, but we're here. It's finally happening.
All good, yeah. So I've actually watched the video that you did on your personal channel about how you got into making YouTube videos, the variety of YouTube videos you made over the years, and we want to cover all that stuff. But first, I just want to know how you got into NASCAR. What started your fandom of NASCAR?
I was just kind of like born into it. My grandpa raced at dirt tracks in North Carolina, Tri-Counties racetrack up in Brasstown, North Carolina. I think this is where he got his start. My grandpa's from Murphy, North Carolina, and he would he wrote for the local newspaper. He'd go to all the local short tracks and all the high school football teams and write for them. And I guess that's where I became, a halfway decent writer from. It's just good genetics, I guess. But he would do all the writing for them. And eventually he was like, man, I got some old cars. I'll just fashion one into a race car. And then he moved down to Greenville and started racing at Greenville Pickens, Travelers Rest, Golden Strip Speedway. And built an entire car just for Anderson Motor Speedway down in Pelzer, South Carolina, and then was out doing a practice lap and got rear-ended, and somebody totaled the whole car. He never got to race in it. So he told me, he's like, if you ever get the opportunity, just stay away from Anderson Motor Speedway.
So you're going to a lot of local tracks. Was there any like major NASCAR tracks you grew up going to consistently?
It was Charlotte Motor Speedway. Because the All-Star race, it was the cheapest race to go to. I have a ticket stub from 1996. It was $25 to sit in turn 1, 20 rows up.
Nice.
And my parents, since they wanted to instill a good work ethic into me, I had to buy my own ticket. So I had to wash cars and do laundry and stuff and buy my $25 ticket. But it was right around my birthday. Is May 22nd. It was always right around there. A few years it actually fell on my birthday. So that was the one race that we went to every year. So that's what I consider my home track. It's it's about an hour closer than Darlington is. So that's just nice. Where I grew up going to racers at.
Cool. And your favorite driver was Mark Martin. Why'd you choose him?
I just liked the color blue when I was a little kid, and he drove that Valvoline car, and I thought that was cool. And then, he was, I wouldn't really call him shy, but I was a shy kid, and he was humble, and he didn't like brag too much. But when he was in victory lane, he'd like pop off, jump up and down, like fist pump and everything. But, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon, they were so used to winning, they would just kind of, sit there and just smile and wave and everything. But Mark Martin, he always seemed really happy when he won. And so I wanted to be like him.
Yeah. Are there any drivers? Obviously, he's not racing anymore. Are there any drivers that you like now? Who's your favorite?
Brad Keselowski, just because I followed him when he was in the USAR Hooters Pro Cup Series 2004, 2005. Nice. And I always thought like, man, that guy's got a lot of talent, but he's never going to get his shot. And then Ted Musgrave wrecked that one guy under caution, and then he got suspended for a week, and they called up Brad Keselowski to drive it, and he was leading at Memphis, led all these laps, and then he got a call from Junior, started driving in the Busch series, and just started working his way up the ladder, and he ended up winning a cup, which was a weird feeling for me. I'd never pulled for a guy that had won a championship before. I didn't really know what to think of it.
That's funny. Are there any, you talked about guys, like we always give like the Quinn Halfs a hard time. We give Kyle Busch a hard time, kind of for the same reason that you said. He gets to victory lane and it's like he doesn't show any emotion being there. Is there anybody you don't like?
Not anybody who's like offensively bad. Nobody that I'm just like so peeved at. But I've got guys that I just feel like so about, like Denny Hamlin. Man, for a long time I didn't like Denny Hamlin, but now that he's going for 3 in a row at Daytona, I'm kind of sitting there and like, all right, man, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get 51 wins, one more than Junior Johnson. Let's get 3 Daytona 500s in a row. Let's not win a single championship, and let's just like take the greatest driver to never win a cup. Let's just take that title, lock it up, and make no doubt about it.
There you go. Cool. Well, so for the majority of time you've been making videos, they haven't all been about NASCAR. Can you tell us a little bit about the ones outside of NASCAR that you're making?
God, it goes all the way back to like 2010, 2008. Originally it was just like uploading copyrighted content, just music videos, just grunge music, thrash metal and stuff. And then 2010, I started getting into like the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game scene.
Yeah.
And started winning a little bit at locals. I started winning some regional tournaments and got up to nationals and started getting my ass kicked and realized I wasn't really cut out for that. But I had a lot of fun doing that. And at the time there still is this really good, vibrant scene with Yu-Gi-Oh, like Mega Capital G, MCOL 40, a bunch of other guys. I've kind of left the game behind me because it ended up being like really expensive. Like every 6 months they'd ban a whole bunch of cards. You have to rebuild your deck. You'd spend another $200 on it. And after a while, I was working at Zaxby's. I was making like $8 an hour. I couldn't do that anymore. So I just had to like leave it all behind.
So, you mentioned in your video about yourself receiving internet clout, was becoming a YouTube sensation and having 93,000 subscribers and the internet clout. Was that always the goal, or were you just doing it for fun?
Yeah, that was the goal. I would have like thoughts and dreams about it. I was like, yeah, that would be awesome, but I'll never get there. And then one day I woke up like April 1st, April Fool's Day, ironically. And I saw that one random NASCAR video I'd made, the worst NASCAR race ever. I put that up 6 months ago. It had not done anything. I think in January it had 800 views. I had 4 subscribers on the channel. I was just like, all right. And then I checked back in on it in April. I've got 800 subscribers, 88,000 views, and people are wanting to know when the next video is coming out. So I was just like, holy crap. And I had a couple lined up from another channel I was trying to make a run at, just doing like anime reviews, because I was big into anime. I was an introvert. I was a weirdo when I was a kid, so I loved anime like any introverted weirdo. And so I wanted to make a run at being an anime channel. And there was a lot of anime channels that had 100,000 subscribers, million subscribers. And I thought I could get in that scene, but never worked out. And there was another guy that had a challenge called Mia Mafova. Maybe I'll actually make a effing video. And that was his acronym. And in the month of May, you had to make 31 videos in 31 days. And so I made that challenge. And a few of those videos were NASCAR related because I just ran out of content. They say you can make it about anything. And most of them are anime. So a few of them are like video games, and a few of them were about NASCAR. And so I had those videos like in the pipe, just sitting on my hard drive. And so when the NASCAR channel popped off, I was like, all right, I got like 3-4 videos I can just like put over here. And then I got time to make an actual new video. So, top 10 worst NASCAR calls was one of those. And people just really seemed to like it. And every single one of them just like popped off. And it was something I had hoped would happen, but it was never anything I had like meticulously planned out. It was just something that kind of randomly happened one day.
Right.
So I was one of those people who watched that video when the 88,000 it popped up. It was the only video, and I watched it, and I was like, that was so different than any other video I've been watching. I watch NASCAR videos every day for lunch, and so I watched it, and I was hooked, and I was like, what, this guy's only got one video? I'm going to need more from this guy. So, like, how do you explain that happening where nothing happened? You had hope for that video, rightfully so, but like, why did it take so long? How did it get picked up overnight? Like, how do you explain that? You'll have to ask YouTube about that one. I don't know. Because I planned for that one to take off. I was like, man, I'll make a NASCAR video on a NASCAR specific channel. That'll do great. I put it in October, the week of the Talladega race that year. Worst race ever. Talladega 1969. All my ducks in a row, had all the tags right, had all the title right and everything.
according to everything I know about SEO, search engine optimization, that was going to be a hit, and it did jack crap. It did nothing. I think after a week it had 20 views. And so I was just like, all right, just let that sit there. And I guess enough people started seeing it, and it started getting like 2 views a day, then 20 views a day. And in March, I think it was doing like 30 views a day. And then April, it started getting 1,000, 2,000. And then like it hit 40,000 in a single day. And in a single day, it did more than my entire anime channel had done during its entire lifespan. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm a NASCAR channel now. I would be stupid not to do this like full time, to devote my entire attention to this. So, yeah, and the rest is history, I guess.
So what advice do you have for people? Like we post our interviews and stuff to YouTube, but we're by no means YouTube aficionados. That's not our stick. What do you have to give to people who like these kids who do stop motion videos and stuff like that? What advice do you have for the young kids who are trying to kind of follow in your footsteps and get there?
Well, a lot of the stop motion videos run circles around me. I know Eric Estep, he's got like that Sonic stop motion videos, got like 10 million views or something.
Yeah.
But my number one piece of advice is just persevere. You know, every video you make is another lottery ticket. And you never know when your number is going to come up. Just keep trying at it. Always try to make yourself better. If you get to a position where you look at a video that you made 2-3 years ago and it looks the exact same as the videos you're making now, you got to change something. Like you got to get better. You got to learn stuff. And like when I was making like anime videos in 2017, I look at like how choppy they were, how horrendous the edits were and everything. And then I look at the anime videos I was making in at the end of 2018. And I'm like, okay, I learned a lot. Like some of these edits look like really slick and stuff.
Right.
And then, I get to making NASCAR videos, and a lot of the fundamentals of making videos and everything carries over. And some of these edits and stuff I was making in like 2019, 2020, I was like, man, that looks really good. That looks great. It looks so much better than what I was doing like 3-4 years ago.
Nice.
So when you're looking at your own videos, you have to notice an improvement. If you don't notice an improvement, you got to change something up. So that would be, 2 biggest pieces of advice. Always keep trying and always keep improving.
For sure. And
it sounds cheesy, but it works.
No, I mean, we do the same thing. We had our first season of this podcast last year, and we sat down in the off season and we're going through things like, how do we make it better? How do we get more interviews? Who can we be reaching out to and network with? Because we're not as much on the content and the creation side. We're on, the conversation and the relationship side of things. So I think that's great advice to anybody doing this, because persistence is what's going to get you where you want to go. I do want to bring up some of the feedback and some of the comments you get on your videos. I saw last week you posted this guy tried to give you a Southern history lesson, and that you get all this feedback. And we were even talking at the beginning, some of the guys that are other YouTubers get really negative feedback. How do you deal with that stuff?
I wish there was like some magic bullet I could give you, but probably the most annoying comments I get are the people who like have really good constructive criticism, but they're just mean about it. And so you're just like, man, I should start doing that. You know what? I'm going to show this guy I have a spite. And then you just like take all their advice, and then you kind of prove them right and prove them wrong at the same time.
Right.
Even when people aren't being constructive about it, try to like decipher why somebody would say something like that. And like, all right, so if there is something constructive in here, I got to dig through a mile of crap to get to it, but maybe there is something good in here. Number one thing I remember is I did the slap on location at North Carolina State Fairgrounds, and there was a guy who posted like, why don't you go talk to people who actually went to these racetracks? Why don't you go to the local library? Why don't you do these interviews? Why don't you talk about so-and-so and this and that? And I was like, dude, I did that in one weekend, man. I've got a day job. This is like something I did like in a weekend and all that. He's like, man, that's not good enough. And I was just like, you know what? I'll show this guy. And then I went to like Myrtle Beach and I did like this whole big thing down there. And
Yep.
and so I'd like to think that Slap on Location's gotten better over the years.
For sure.
But yeah, but just when you get the like negative feedback, people are trying to tell you something positive. Again, you have to dig a lot to find out what they're trying to say and everything. But usually, yeah, they mean well, even though if it doesn't look like it.
Right. Well, can you give us a little insight into like the mind behind the videos? What's the process when you're coming up with these videos, kind of from the beginning of brainstorming to the launch of them?
I wish there was like a definitive process I could tell you about, but probably the biggest thing would be the videos I make are the videos I want to watch that nobody else is making. You know, once somebody covers something, I'm like, all right, somebody did that finally, cool. And then I just never touch it. But you know, nobody was kind of making the videos I would want to watch. You know, if people were, then I wouldn't be making videos right now.
Well, I was just going to ask you, we started this series, NASCAR Storied, and it was kind of based off of that. We love the history of the sport. We go into some of the details, and we find ourselves just diving into research and tons of it. Where do you get a lot of your research from when you're going to do stuff like North Wilkesboro or Myrtle Beach and talk about topics like that?
Oh, I mean, it just always kind of goes back to like, what's a good story, you know, like what kind of piques your interest. And then you go on Racing Reference, you try to look at some of the data, some of the statistics and everything. And that's kind of where you find your stories at. Right now I'm working on a video about the Daytona Triple and why nobody's won it yet, winning the Clash, the qualifier, and the 500 all in the same year. And you kind of start looking at the data and like either you finish like dead last in the 500 or you finish in second. Like you either crash and burn or you watch like perfection slip right through your fingers. And then the sort of like existential hell that creates for you as a driver. And that's that kind of creates a really good story. So you just make a video from there.
So you're pretty well connected with other big YouTubers like Brock Beard, The Iceberg, Danny B, Black Flags Matter, and Eric from Out of the Groove. How much do you guys collaborate on different projects?
We don't really collaborate so much as we're just trying to like stay off of each other's toes. Like, right. You know, if I'm making a video about X, I want to make sure nobody else is like trying to do a video about X. So like make sure like I zig when everybody else is zagging, and you know they you know do something about A while I'm trying to do something about B, and so we just try to like not cover the same bases really.
That's cool.
But every once in a while we'll find out where interests converge and we'll do a collaboration like Brock Beard and me doing the beginning of the end about Bobby Ginn and Mark Martin and Joe Nemechek, Sterling Marlin, and where they ended up with that whole fiasco.
So that kind of ties into my next question. Is there like any main contributors to your story or to your videos that you do, or is this mainly just the one-man show all the time?
I mean, it's pretty much just a one-man show. I'm a weirdo, and I'm trying to look for like certain things, like suggesting the race at Bowman Gray Stadium. I when I first heard about that track when I was in high school, I was like, "You mean they race around a football field?" And that's like an actual track. And you mean they still race there? They still have late model races there? Like, why aren't the truck series there? And then I started like looking into it more, and I saw the K&N race there in 2012, and I was just like, man, they gotta have a NASCAR race, like a big league NASCAR race there someday. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it is pretty much just a one-man show. And I have a lot of DMs from people just like suggesting video ideas and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got to admit, like 99.9% of them just don't interest me. Mm-hmm. It'll be something that somebody else has covered or something that I've like talked about in passing that I don't think deserves an entire like video. And, if you start doing videos for somebody else's sake, it ends up losing the sort of magic that got you to where you are in the first place.
Right.
So you got to do what interests you. You can't like chase what other people want you to do. And it kind of goes back to what I think Big Bill France Sr. said. He was like, the customer doesn't know what they want. You have to like know what they want. You have to give it to them. And if they say they don't want it, you just have to shove it in their face. You know, that's the way it works. And sometimes you think people want something, and you put it out there, and then they don't want it, and then nobody watches it. But every once in a while, you know, you strike gold.
Yeah. It's truly unfortunate NASCAR fans are so opinionated about what they want. It would be a lot easier.
Yeah,
But
people. It's not just NASCAR fans. I think it's all sports fans, or really just people in general, very opinionated about things they know very little about.
right.
Well, they say they want one thing, and they really don't. They really don't want that thing, because when they get it, they're just like, yeah, I don't. That's what this is like. Hell no.
Yeah. Well, you did that video that was on kind of like your ideal schedule, and it got my mind going, and I was like, God, these are brilliant ideas. Like this guy, S1apSh0es needs to work for NASCAR and kind of do some of the, like, get these ideas out there, like Bowman Grape, putting that on the schedule for maybe like the All-Star weekend type of thing and all that. But it's kind of like NASCAR is sort of doing those kinds of changes now. They listen to people and they're kind of making those changes. But my personal,
you're not going to believe this, but in 2007, I floated the idea in a NASCAR thread on redversusblue.com. Just the idea of running the Roval for the fall race. I was like, why do we do the 600, the All-Star race, and then have a 500-mile race all on the same track? That's boring. Let's do the Roval race. Like sports cars race on that. Like we can do that, right? And then everybody told me like, no, that's stupid. That'll never happen. And I was just like, man, that would be awesome though if it did happen. They're like, yeah, it would be cool, but it'll never happen. And then lo and behold, it eventually did.
Yeah, Marcus Smith talks about floating that to the drivers and the owners, and they're like, no, that's not going to work out. But my personal favorite video that you've done is the one on North Wilkesboro. And that was until you did the one on the Mark Martin series, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
What is the video that you've done that you're most proud of?
Oh man, I think I'd have to look at it. There's like 40 like main videos now. I don't know if I could really pick on one that I just really like look back and I'm like, man, that was the greatest thing I've ever done. But I think the modified series, like the modified and the super modified videos, because those were cars that I had seen on TV, I had seen on YouTube, and I was like, what the hell are these things? Like, why does nobody talk about them? And I was like, wait a second, what is a modified to begin with? And I looked, and there was no documentary on it. There was no definitive history. And I started digging. I was like, wait a second. So there was like a modified sportsman race at this track in like 1950. Is that the same thing as the modifieds today? And I started digging, and like eventually it was. I was like, wait a second, this is the oldest division in all of NASCAR. This was the first one. 1948. This was the very first NASCAR series. Like this is like the cornerstone of the entire thing right here. Nobody's talking about it. And so I just kind of put all the pieces together, and I was just like, yeah, this is how we got from like a beach race the week before NASCAR legally existed on paper in February of 1948 to, Mike Stefanik running around the Daytona backstretch and cussing out Kyle Larson. This was like a 70-year journey, and this is how we got to that point. And then the super modified video was just I got actually put on the Oswego Speedway's like front page of their website, and I was like really proud about that. And was that they kind of gave me a shout out, and I wanted to do those guys justice, because as soon as I put out the modified video, I saw super modifieds, and I was like, I started watching some of those races, and I was like, is that wing moving? They have DRS on short tracks? What is that? Like, that's awesome. Why is nobody talking about this? This is the craziest. This is literally a cockpit with a roll cage and just an engine attached to it with four wheels and a gigantic wing on top of it. Like, this is the craziest car I think I've ever seen. Somebody's got to make a video on this. And so, it goes back to what I was talking about. The videos I make are the videos I would want to watch. Just the only reason why I make videos is nobody else is making them.
Right. And that's for sure. What about the viewers? Do you know which one has the most views?
The very first video, the worst NASCAR race ever. But the second biggest one is the worst F1 race ever. that video is getting real close.
People like the bad races, not the good races.
I watch a guy named Jim Sterling on YouTube. He has the Jimquisition, and he talks about video games. And he had a whole video talking about how people love negative videos. Like people want to watch you tear something apart. They don't want to hear you sing about its praises. They want blood. You know, that's what people want. The people say like, "Oh, I don't like the negative stuff. Be positive. I want people to be positive." And then you look at their viewing habits. They don't do that. Yeah. You know, they want to see somebody get strung up. You know, it goes back to what we're saying. Like people to say they want one thing, but they actually want something else. People don't know what they want.
Well, we can talk about a little bit of the Mark Martin 5-part series and no championship. I'm not joking. I had a little bit of tears in my eyes on the episode 5 of that, just because, I mean, he's such a legend and he was so close. Has Mark Martin reached out to you on this? Do you know if he's seen this?
He posted it on his Facebook page. So he's seen it, and he left a comment on the 5th part.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he's seen it, and he said, quote, "I'm honored," you know, so that was a big deal for me. You know, the guy that I've always looked up to since I was a little kid.
Heck yeah. Do you know any other prominent drivers or any just prominent people within NASCAR that are big fans of yours or followers?
Noah Gragson, he's shouted me out on Twitter. Dale Jr. shouted me out on national TV during the rain delay at Texas. So, you know, there's people high up the food chain who know who I am and watch some of my content. And, you know, maybe one day I can drag Dale Earnhardt Jr. out to upstate South Carolina and show him what's left of Air Base Speedway or something.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we know you're passionate about some of these older speedways, and obviously there's going to be more people interested now that he's doing the Lost Speedway series on Peacock. What got you into that? Was it just you growing up and going to those tracks, and some of them are no more? What got you pumped up about that?
I think it was 2013. I read an article about Okanichi Speedway and how it had been converted into a nature trail. And it just looked like this archaeological site. It looked like Machu Picchu just sitting out in Hillsborough, North Carolina somewhere. And then I started like looking at like all the data on it. I was like, man, this thing's been around since like day one. First season, 1949, it was on the schedule. And, you know, it was on the modified schedule in 1948. And it was just kind of left to rot, and a lot of people forgot about it. And if it wasn't for like a few people really getting behind it and turning it into a nature trail, it'll probably still be rotting out in the woods somewhere. And then I started wondering, like, well, how many of these things are sitting out there? And I started looking, and there were all these old racetracks that had just fallen apart, and it wasn't like they were just overdeveloped. It wasn't like somebody bought the land and built a subdivision on it. It was just a lot of times they were just left out in the woods. And so that was kind of like, you know, southeastern, you know, archaeological digs for me, which is like, it was like I was the Indiana Jones of NASCAR all of a sudden, like looking at all these places, like what's left of them and everything. And I was like, before they're completely gone, I want to see them, you know, I want to see them before they're, you know, lost to time completely. And then Dale Jr. like starts up his series like at the same time I'm doing like that slap on location thing, and everybody's like posting at me on Twitter saying, "Oh, Dale Jr. stole your idea. You should be mad about this." I was like, man, it takes more than one man to document all this stuff. I'm glad there's somebody else with that kind of clout that's also interested in this type of stuff.
So is Okanichi your favorite one, or do you have a favorite one that you've learned about or visited?
My favorite one probably North Carolina State Fairgrounds, because the grandstands are still up. They just do figure 8 races and tractor pulls out there, and God, they have so much good food out there during the state fair. I had like shark kebabs, fried alligator. It was just wild stuff out there, man. And fun fact, I was trying to like shoot out on in the grandstands for that video, and we couldn't get out there because they were trying to find a felon who had gotten into the state fair. And they had North Carolina State Patrol had shut off the entrance way into the grandstands and everything. They had called off the tractor pull for that night when I got there because they were trying to like apprehend this guy in the grandstands. So yeah, that was probably my favorite slap on location bit. And yeah, I got to thank Brock Beard for the video he put out like 2 weeks before on Black Friday in Raleigh at the Raleigh Speedway, because I never even knew that track existed. And I'd already planned on going out there for North Carolina State Fairgrounds in Okanichi, which is pretty close. And Brock Beard and NASCAR Main History put out that video. And then I was like, I talked to my cameraman, Evan. I was like, crap, dude, we got to go out to Raleigh. And then I got a hotel that was like equal distance between the State Fair and where the Raleigh Speedway used to be. And I was able to go out there. We were able to do like 3 shoots in 2 days and
nice
space that stuff out. So yeah, that we filmed all 3 of those episodes in 2 days. Wow. which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So switching gears just a little bit, you've been pretty vocal, and we saw the video about the NASCAR playoff structure and how you feel it's got its downfalls, and definitely a hot topic. What do you think NASCAR is doing now that they're doing well?
Definitely shaking up the schedule. You know, okay. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but it seems like they took some ideas from me, you know, Coda, Knoxville. You know, we knew that they were trying to go back to Nashville, so they're revamping the super speedway, trying to test the market a little bit for it. It just their willingness to accept new ideas is good. You know, their willingness to go to new tracks and everything is great. I like that. I think that if we're going to shake things up, that's the way it needs to happen. Is like, let's go to some new tracks. You know, if people don't like cookie cutters, you know, let's cut them all down to one race a piece. I didn't think they were going to get rid of Chicagoland and Kentucky. That threw me for a loop. Mm-hmm. But you know, now, but since they've done that, you know, let's go crazy. Let's go to, you know, let's race around the Pepsi Center in Denver or something, you know, like Cart used to do. Let's get hog wild with it. So yeah, if they're in the business of doing crazy races, let's go all in on it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It sucked because I live in Independence, Kentucky, which is like 25 minutes down the road.
Oh, man.
Kentucky, so it sucks to lose it. But then I'm like, man, it's going to be cool to be able to do like an apples to apples comparison of F1 racing at COTA to now these NASCAR drivers racing at COTA. It's going to be cool to see some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So overall, do you think that we're heading in the right direction outside of the playoff picture? Do you think NASCAR's heading in the right direction, or do you think we're still in that period of flux and throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks?
I mean, I think we're going in the right direction of, you know, shaking up the schedule, kind of reaching out to, you know, millennials and having these, you know, the new Daytona 500 commercial is great. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. Like if I posted on Twitter, I was like, man, if you gave me $1 million in Ron Perlman, that's the promo I would make right there. That's what I would have done. And I think that's great and all. I just hope that we don't lose our identity along the way. Mm-hmm. Like we do majority road races. I think that's a bad call. Yeah. I think, you know, changing the number around, you know, because we've always had these big, massive numbers on the door, and that's how you know who your driver is, because the paint job changes every week, it seems like. I think we have to shake things up while maintaining our identity, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's still NASCAR. It's just we go to a few different places and we have some new faces around.
That makes sense. So is like you mentioned the numbers moving back. Is there anything that outside of the playoff picture that particularly perturbs you, like maybe a dirt race on Bristol or anything like that seems to peeve people? Single lug nut?
The one thing about the single lug nut thing that kind of ticks me off is they had 5 lug nuts on that bigger wheel at first, and then they were like, oh, well, we did it for safety concerns. I was like, no, you didn't.
Well,
no, you didn't. No, you didn't, because we had several crew members on Twitter saying NASCAR is going to do something to limit pit crew expenditures. And there are a lot of rumors circulating around that. We're going to change something about pit stops irreversibly. And then they changed it and they said 1 lug nut. So it's going to be like an IndyCar stop where we're waiting on fuel. We're not waiting on tires anymore. So this is a way to, you can get any random mechanic to jump over the wall and change a tire. You don't need some collegiate professional athlete or whatever to hit 5 studs perfect and do all that perfect and get it done in 13 seconds. Now we have to wait, 15 seconds for fuel or whatever. Now the fuel can dictates the speed of the stop. So that's one thing that people kind of missed in that whole fiasco. They didn't do it for safety. They said they did, but it was really about trying to mitigate pit crew costs.
I feel like I see some big YouTubers and they say that, they're making a living off of this, and others are like, I don't make anything off of this. It seems a bit of a debate. How lucrative is it to become a very popular YouTuber? Is this something you could make a full-time living off of?
I mean, I could. I would have to go back to living in a trailer with 3 roommates, but I could make it work. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, if you have 50,000 subscribers and you're uploading, let's say 30 videos a year, and you're getting 100,000 views or so average per video. You have a few that pop off, a few that underperform and everything, but overall you're getting like 75,000, 100,000 views per video. You can probably clear about 45K in ad revenue.
Wow.
And that 45K is with federal taxes already taken out of it. The only thing that you have to pay taxes on is Medicare and Social Security tax. And then, whatever expenditures you had, you could write off on taxes later. And that's not counting, if you have a Twitch deal. That's not counting if you have sponsorships. That's not counting if you have people paying you commission to do other stuff on the side. Me, I got my day job as a package delivery driver, and that pays really good. I make a good union wage, and I got YouTube on top of that. But even with that, there's been a few months where I've made more on YouTube than I did at my day job. And when COVID hit and everybody's buying stuff online, and I was working, they bumped me up to 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I was working 60 hours a day on that. And they were like, "Oh, but you're making so much money doing this." I was like, actually, I'm losing money because I'm not able to make videos on YouTube, and I can't make that extra money. I was like, yeah, I'm getting a few extra $100 on my paycheck at my day job, but I can make a few thousand extra bucks making YouTube videos. That's once you get to about 100K, you start contemplating just on ad revenue alone. You're like, man, I could make a living doing this. I can quit my job. I can tell my boss to go screw himself and just storm out of there. Like if you got 100K subs and you're getting like an equivalent number of views per video, and you're getting that kind of ad revenue, everybody's thought about telling their boss to screw off and then just storming out of there. Everybody's thought about it at least once.
Heck yeah, they have. There's other ways, and I wasn't necessarily familiar with this until recently. There's a thing called Patreon and Kofi. You can actually support different people that you like that make videos and other artists in different venues. What is this? So, can you tell us about how that works?
Yeah, Patreon is like a monthly subscription. I got one for the Slap on Location stuff because the Slap on Location doesn't really get a whole lot of views. I mean, the Walt Disney World Speedway thing and the Air Base Speedway on location shots, those did great. Everything else is just, kind of meandering around. And I was just like, man, I'm not making enough on ad revenue that I can pay for the hotel, pay for the gas, pay for my cameraman. But if I get like a few $100 per month on Patreon, I can, basically break even. And there are about 30,000 people who really, really love Slap on Location, even though the other, 70, 60,000 people don't care about it. I do have that good, solid fan base that do care about it. So I was just like, man, if I can just get a few people to give me, $1, $5, $10 a month, I can break even on this. And that's basically what my Patreon goes towards. And then Kofi, Kofi, Kofi. You pay just a one-time fee of $3, basically enough to buy a coffee, and then you can buy somebody 15 coffees would be $45, and those can be like your one-time fees and everything. So it's a little bit more secure than PayPal, and it gives you a little bit more separation. So people prefer coffee over like a straight up PayPal donation.
Cool. I love that, especially if you're thinking about people that I spend my lunch every day watching videos like yours, so to be able to actually support people like that and make sure that they continue to do it. It's awesome that we have the ability to pitch in and help out. So what's next? You mentioned the Daytona video. What other ideas and videos do you have in store for us this year?
I got the Daytona Beach on location shoot that Cody H Gaming helped me with last year, and I got so inundated with work during COVID lockdowns and all that stuff, I wasn't able to do it. And I was like, okay, after Daytona 2020, I'll finally put it up. So that'll probably come up after the Daytona Triple. And then I've got a few other ideas. I want to talk about the art of local short track racing. How people have these crazy races, flagpole races. I don't know if you guys have this or where you're at, banana races. It's where you have to like go out in your personal car, do one lap, get out, eat a banana, and then get back in and do another lap, and then they take your total time. They did that at Greenville Pickens for a few years. I think they still do that at Anderson Motor Speedway.
That is hysterical.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
That's just a half-cocked idea. Dude,
dude, it's so much fun. They get like 5 people out there, and they go out and they got run around in their personal car and everything, and they just do like a random 5 people every week. It's a lot of fun.
That's so funny.
Nice. Well, Slap, we really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight and just telling us a little bit how the sausage is made. I know that people love hearing it, and we love what you do. So just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Even though it's a lot of hard work, I do like talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's something I always wondered, like, how much money do these people make? Like, how do they make it? Like, what is the thought process and all of that? So if I can give back to people just a little bit, I consider it, mission accomplished.
Well, we had a lot of fun talking to S1apSh0es. It's always fun bringing these two realms of media together, us the sound and podcast guys, and then those visual storytellers over on YouTube. Very, very cool stuff to talk to him.
Yeah, and he just released a video this past Saturday on there's no driver that's ever won the three-peat at Daytona. So the Busch Clash, the Duels, and the Daytona 500. No driver's ever done it. So he highlights that. And there's really not a whole lot of opportunity for that to happen soon. Maybe Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott. And as we saw, that didn't happen tonight. So, but go check him out. His videos are really solid.
Yeah, for sure. But it is Tuesday night, little after 9 p.m. We just had an electric finish to the Busch Clash. I was so pumped up these past 3 days. We've been blowing up Twitter, blowing up Instagram with just excitement to get to the Busch Clash. Even though it's an exhibition race, it was a ton of fun to watch. What's your initial reaction?
To the race itself, man, I had so many emotions on that last lap. I don't dislike Blaney. I like Blaney a lot. Obviously, Chase Elliott's my guy, so I wanted to see him win. I can't believe that he snuck up and got into the lead. But then they just got together, and God bless America, Kyle Busch wins the race. So, but overall, I thought the racing was really good. I mean, you could tell that people were pretty rusty. It was pretty dusty out there as well. A lot of mud going around. What do you think about it?
I thought it was a ton of fun, man. It was odd to see Kevin Harvick just throwing the car all over the place. Kurt Busch had a little bit of trouble going into turn 1 a few times. He went in with the lead, and then he just kept swinging it out wide. I thought it was a really, really fun race. And I'm going to tell you, it's the first time I think ever where Kyle Busch won. And I went, well, damn, good for him. Because those two battling it out. I mean, you know, I don't know if Chase would have been able to pass him if they played it clean through that last chicane, but man, it was an electric finish. It was a lot of fun, and right place, right time for Kyle Busch. That seems like what he needs to start out the season if he wants to change course from last year.
Yeah, and Blaney's been on the right side of that. That moment reminded me of Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. going into the last chicane at the Roval. So he's been on the other end of that, and he was on the wrong end this time. I will have to. I also liked the changeup this year. So we have a new guy in the booth with Clint Boyer, and I really liked it. I thought he added a lot of color. He was he wasn't like unpolished as a driver who just retired and came into the booth what you think they would be. He was very well spoken. He didn't stumble over his words. He gave good content. He interacted with the guys really well. I'm excited about that those three guys being in the booth.
For sure. So in the race, who stood out to you?
I would say not one particular driver, but a team. Joe Gibbs Racing, they dominated the race, I would say. Denny Hamlin led a majority of the laps. Kyle Busch was silently in the top 10, won the race, and then Truex was up there in the top 3 the majority of the race as well until he wrecked. So I would say that they caught my eye the most as far as performance-wise. I mean, not surprising that they're going to come out with pulling out all the stops. So not too many other people really caught my eye per se. I mean, it was nice to see Chase Elliott start from the back and have a shot at winning it. Tyler Reddick performed pretty well, Blaney as well. So a good performance. Definitely some rusty people. Did anybody stand out to you that did pretty well?
I have to say Tyler Reddick, I was kind of impressed. You know, on that first turn, that when they went into turn 1 the first time, he swung out wide, but he was hauling ass into the turn, and he did it every time. And so it seemed like he was testing out, pushing the boundaries, and it kept him towards the top most of the time. He wasn't really vying for the lead unless there were pit stop cycles going on. But I was impressed by him. It was obviously impressive to see Chase and the strategy that they were able to use within a 35-lap race to get him back up to the front of the pack. I was impressed with the Hendrick guys, sans the issues that were there. I think Alex Bowman had a chance at a top 5 had Recky Spinhouse not come across the track and taken him out.
Well, that wasn't Recky's fault. That he got dumped, and I can't remember who dumped him, but
he did get dumped. But it still affected Bowman. So,
it's Daytona. He's gonna wreck. Recky's gonna wreck.
So I thought Bowman did well. I thought Byron did pretty well, except for his crew messing up the tire, coming out of a pit stop and somehow ending up with a flat tire. So I liked them. I thought they did well. I'm just excited to see the road course in a couple weeks with how competitive this exhibition race was. Was there anybody that you were kind of like, I expected a little bit more from you during this race and you're worried about as we move on in the season?
I don't know. I think most folks performed about where I thought they would. I'm not terribly surprised, but I did think that Austin Dillon would do a bit better than he did. I'm not quite sure where he finished, but he was hanging out in the tail end for a while, and he just came off of the 24-hour Rolex race. It's a completely different car, but racing 6 hours around that very track, you'd think that experience would give him some advantage.
Well, he did go the wrong way during practice of that too. So
a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think anybody did terrible. Cole Custer caught his car on fire, and he was like bound and determined to get that thing going.
I know it was funny because he's got cords hanging out of the underside of the car, and he's just like, guys, I'm trying to get it started, and everybody in the booth is like, get out of the car, it's on fire.
The emergency crew's knocking on the window net. Sir, gotta get out now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had really a poor performance other than maybe Kevin Harvick, but that's just a fluke. I mean, he's such a solid racer. I don't see it impacting him down the road. I think it was just they were 4 wide in one of those turns where he spun out. So I think it's all incidental.
He does not perform well in road course races, and he what I'm afraid of is getting into a rut that people do in late in their career. I mean, he had an awesome 2020 season up until the playoffs, and he just, with the lack of the better phrase, like shit the bed. So
Yeah.
Here he is, first race out of the gate, and he's just all over the place mowing the grass. So hopefully he turns it around, and we see a good performance out of him this year.
Well, we're back this weekend with points racing, Daytona 500, fantasy NASCAR. We have some new people that have jumped into the pot. Bart, you got to get us back into the fantasy forecast. You're the fantasy sensei, finished in the top 2,000 last year. Who do you have, and how are we doing the fantasy forecast this year?
All right, the way that I'm going to do it this year is we're going to do the top 5. So I feel like in years past, some races I would be like a hoarder where I'm like, I name like 15 drivers. Like, these are the guys that you want to pick, which that doesn't help anybody, but it definitely throws off our fantasy team, which is helpful for me. So I'm going to go top 5 drivers that I would put on my lineup. I'm going to give you garage bait. So I'm going to give you 3 drivers that I would put in my garage. I'm going to give you 1 long shot.
All right, give it to me.
All right, so top 5 putting in my lineup this coming weekend, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. He's won the past 2 Daytona 500s. He could go for 3. No driver's ever done that. So he has proved that he's going to be dominant on the race this upcoming Sunday. Number 2, Blaney. Blaney is in the top 5 anytime we're at a super speedway, so anticipate that you're going to see him there. Then I'm going to say some drivers here that you guys might be a little shocked by, but this is Daytona. Keep in mind that most of the field will be wrecked out by the end. Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher is not somebody you see up front a lot, but he does find himself often in the top 5 at super speedways. Eric Jones. I do think that we will see him up top. And then Bubba Wallace. I think that he's going to get that 23 XI team up there. So those are who I am selecting. My garage bait this week will be Joey Logano. He is very good at super speedways, but he hasn't had the best luck, especially when it comes to wrecks. Matt DiBenedetto has proved to be pretty good here. And then I'm going to go Austin Dillon. He's also won the Daytona 500 before. My long shot, which is, this is going to be totally different the rest of the year, but my long shot for this upcoming race, Chase Elliott. And the reason why I say Chase is he is not won at Daytona. His best finish at Daytona is dismal. And I don't have that stat to roll off of my tongue, but I want to say it's like his best finish is like maybe 16th. Something terrible. So that is my long shot. And those are my picks. Don't forget to set up your lineup, get involved in fantasy because it is a ton of fun. If you need a team, you can always join the Going In Tight, Coming Out Loose team. And we look forward to playing this season.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you on this, the 30th episode of Going In Tight, Coming Out Loose. As always, you can find our episodes on any major podcasting platform. You can subscribe, rate, review on Apple. You can follow us on Spotify. Check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also head to goininttightpodcast.com and find all of our old episodes there. You can follow us on social media at goininttight_pod on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook. And for you business folk out there, catch us on LinkedIn. We look forward to talking to you all next week.